Okay, we are here to talk about Crimson Desert. I got invited for an event. I did not get paid to go to this place. They just invited, hey, you want to come play the game? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So, what is Crimson Desert? Well, the more that I played the game, the more I was like confused, and I felt like I needed to play it more to be able to tell you this. So, overall, I like the game. But you need to make sure that your expectations from this game are aligned with what the game wants to provide you. If you're looking for an intense storytelling, something like, I don't know, Witcher, Expedition 33, I'm not sure if you're gonna get that from this game. But if you're into exploring worlds and finding out a bunch of cool stuff and, maybe building a settlement, setting a village on fire on top of a dragon and stuff like that, maybe this game is for you, because there's a lot of like exploring and the world seems very rich with lots of things you can do. Maybe a little bit of GTA, Breath of the Wild, and Where Winds Meet. It's more rooted in like realistic and medieval system while having a lot of magic and fantastical things. What are my first impressions of Crimson Desert? It was fun, it was intriguing, it was interesting, but at the same time it was like very different. There were things that I had like trouble with. Like for example, the controls, they were a little bit overwhelming, but it could also be given the environment I was. But at the same time, I also found myself being very curious about what I could find in that world and where things could lead. I found myself wanting to play the game more the next day after I played it for the first time, and I don't really know any game that's exactly like this. It's kind of like a single player RPG made by a company that's known for making an MMO. Part of me is really happy that a company like that is trying to try and make games that are my bread and butter. I'm intrigued. So far, I would say I have a positive first impression of it and it was a good time. If this game is for you or not, only you can tell. I couldn't interact like as closely with the main story of the game, but the dialogue was okay. Sometimes there was some over explanation of dialogue, but the overall setting was fine. You start like trying to be either a good guy, but you can also be a bad person, ultimately it's up to you. There is some cool stuff, like for example, the way that you learn things that you can do. You might come across something in the world that requires you to dig, but it could be that you don't know how to dig yet. But then if you go to a place like a farm and you see somebody like using a shovel, you can observe how they do that, and then you learn how to use a shovel from them. And then you can go back to where you thought it would be interesting to dig, and then you can do that. So basically you learn everything that you can do in the game by observing NPCs and other people doing them. That goes for punches, digging, raising walls, lifting stuff, and a bunch of any systems. You can interact with basically every animal, you can grab them. In fact, interacting in this game is a little bit more complex than in a lot of other games. I had to press like a button when facing a person, and then you could see the options that you could do with that person. So you can't just like press E and interact and you do something. So you would have like a list of options, and depending on what you're interacting with, that list could be bigger or smaller. That goes from things like talking, trading, stabbing them. You can pet dogs. You can even grab cats and hold them in your arms. I actually went out of my way to try to feed a dog. If you go in your inventory, you can actually grab stuff and put it in your hands, and your character just holds it in front, just something. And it kind of felt like the dog was reacting to what I was holding to it. I was holding an apple. When I tried to drop the item, the dog wouldn't do anything. I brought some raw meat, and then I cooked this raw meat, and I dropped the raw meat in front of the dog. And ta-da! The dog ate it. Even though the game didn't actually indicate that that was something I could do, I thought it was really cool that I could feed the dog. You can actually make friends with certain animals. So, for example, if you pet a dog or if you feed a dog or a cat during multiple days, you unlock like their benefits. I think they can follow you around and help you collect items. So I went and I got like cooked food like in a tavern, and the dog didn't want that. So I went back, grabbed more raw meat, and I decided to, instead of dropping on the floor, to throw it to see if the dog would fetch it. The dog did not react at all, except 3 seconds later, a dog came from across town, from nowhere, and just grabbed the meat and ate it. It was actually kind of funny because, it was very unexpected. I didn't even see that other dog. The little that I could interact with the game, I could find some things, but there's probably a lot more to dive in. The game also has a lot of puzzles. The puzzles, they have no guidance whatsoever. And some people will love it and some people will hate that. But for example, if you go to a place, you need to pay attention to things that are missing. Oh, there is a light that's on here and a light that's off here. Maybe what I have to do is turn the light that's off. If you see, for example, that a wall doesn't feel like it has a continuation, or a wall is like too far in the back and the other is too far forward. So you need to pay attention to the little details and see what's up. The only guidance you have when it comes like to puzzles, you can use your lantern and things can shine. Certain things can shine, so you can see that there is something to be solved there. But the game is not obvious at all in how you should accomplish things. You can accidentally slap people and then you're going to become wanted in a town, and that's probably not something you will be doing very early in the game because the guards are quite strong and it will kind of feel like the whole town is coming to beat you up. But it's definitely something that you can probably explore later in the game, especially because as you progress through the game, your character, I feel like you start feeling like as a one-person army. And when I say your character, I need you to keep in mind that you can actually play as 3 different people in the game. I'm not exactly how, except I think it's through the main story. As you progress the main story, you can unlock 2 different characters. One is a girl and the other is, he kind of looks like an orc or something. Those other characters, they have different weapons. The girl, she has kind of like a rapier and a greatsword. I don't remember what the orc had, maybe an axe and something else. And there is also the character you start with, that you have a sword and a spear. The interesting thing about those characters you can unlock is that not only that they play a little bit different, controlling them feels a little bit different as well. I felt like it was better to jump with the girl than it was with the first character. Also, you can either summon them to you, or you can leave them in different areas of the world, and you can just teleport to that area as somebody else. I'm not sure how you can use that, but it felt to me like you could use that for something. While in the beginning of the game, I did kind of like simple tasks. There was a lot of little quests, like for example, give money to the beggar. I could play rock, paper, scissors with the kids. I could help a lady that was tied down in the sewers for some reason. I could help a kid rescue their cat from the ceiling because the cat was stuck there. I saw a man fall from a roof, literally roll down from the roof, and his wife screaming at him because he couldn't clean their chimney. So I went there, grabbed a broom, and cleaned their chimney. So you can do a bunch of little tasks helping people, and even like doing little things, like for example, you can basically greet any citizen in the settlement, in the town, and they can start liking you more. I don't know what's the benefit of getting the people to actually like you more or less and what that does, but it seems like there will be consequences to being liked or disliked. I know for the animals, the dog and the cats, they can follow you around and collect stuff, but I'm not sure for people. But also later in the game, I got to ride a dragon. While I couldn't go with the dragon in town, like kind of like mounts, there's also like a mech that you can use, and you can like shoot people with the mech. You are not allowed to take those in town, but you can still go like to farms and stuff. So of course I took a dragon, I flew above a farm, I set fire to the fields, I set fire to the house, and I was like so happy and The game warned me that I was wanted, and I was not afraid of that. I thought it was kind of cool. I accidentally pressed the wrong button. I jumped off my dragon and I fell to my death. That was fun. That was a really good time. I would describe the combat of this game kind of like a mix of maybe Nier Automata and Monster Hunter. I don't know. It felt like the parry window was very forgiving. I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't really try dodging too much. I fought a boss, but when I played this game at PAX, in this particular playthrough, I was too busy with my dragon setting fire on random farms to actually worry about the boss fight. But attacking and parrying felt good, but at the same time, I felt like jumping was a little bit weird, at least with the first character. I also felt like my movement speed was very slow. I kind of like wish my character moved faster. And I feel like this speed thing is a problem that I had multiple times in the game. I also felt like certain things were faster. You can go up and down elevators, and while the view is stunning and basically everything you see you can go, it felt like I was going up an elevator for like 5 minutes. I just kind of wish that those little things, little moments were a little bit faster. I felt like my horse wasn't going fast enough, but that's mostly it. The controls, I feel like they were the most rough part of the game. It was a mix between probably me being a very loud environment, so it's harder to concentrate, but they didn't feel like where you would press. Not all of them. Like the parry felt like a reasonable place for a parry. It felt like I could do too much to be using a controller. I would assume that playing with mouse and keyboard is probably might feel a little bit better, but with the controller, whenever you have like a grappling hook that you can use it like to turn a bunch of things in the game, there's a lot of like buttons for you to press. Your character, you can shoot by just pressing L2. So if you hold L2, your character automatically goes into a bow, and if you let go, it automatically shoots. I feel like it's cool that I don't need 2 buttons to shoot a weapon, but at the same time, I feel like I accidentally almost shot dogs that I was trying to pet because I was just pressing the wrong things because I wanted to do something else. This game definitely feels like there is a learning curve, but this, I don't think it's going to be a problem after you get the hang and where everything is. But it definitely feels a little bit convoluted at the start. Also, this is something that this will probably, you'll have like more time to digest when it comes like to the controls, but it kind of feels a little bit kind of like in fighting games, how you can have like combos. So to use different magics, you press like R1 and L2, or you can use different combos with pressing multiple buttons in a row, or if you press jump 3 times and something else, something will happen. So as you grow through the game and you unlock skills and abilities and magic and so on, you will be pressing a bunch of button combinations. I'll be straightforward with you guys. At least a lot of the story that I played, I did not find it engaging. It just felt to me more like the story was an excuse to explain how I would get skills and stronger and be able to do more things in the world. I kind of treated the story kind of like as a tool rather than something that I was actively engaged with. It could be that it changes. I don't know. Just the very beginning for me didn't really feel very appealing. I feel like maybe the facial expressions, they felt a little bit kind of like numb. I guess the best way I could describe this is like if everyone has a lot of Botox. but that's about it. I also was like quite distracted. The world to me seemed like a lot more interesting. While I was just following this main storyline that I had to cross a bridge, I decided to just try to jump off the bridge with my horse. It didn't work, so I left the horse. I jump off the bridge and see what was down there and what would happen. So I started collecting a bunch of random animals. So you can collect most animals and you can either release them or I guess make food from them. And maybe you can even sell them to NPCs later. And then I made my way, I crawled back to where I jumped off the bridge and I kept following the guy. He didn't really care that I jumped off the bridge, so it was kind of nice. And then we just kept going. just for the sake of transparency, I need you guys to understand that the version when we play games and events like this is not the release build, and things change. For the sake of transparency, it's important for me to mention that some of us did encounter bugs in the progression of sometimes puzzles, sometimes things that you're supposed to interact, they are not interactable, and then the only solution would be reloading an earlier save file. So one of the things that really stood out to me was definitely the world. The world was very pretty. It felt like it had a lot of depth, that I could do a lot with it. You can basically go into any direction, and there was like stuff in any direction that you go. And I even found like a mini castle that we had like some of the devs from Black Desert Online just assisting with the event. And some of them say that they hadn't seen that before and things like that. And it happened like quite a number of times. And the people around me, they were also like finding things and sharing things. Like when Cowboy, he was sitting by my side, he found a cat and he was holding the cat. I was like, oh my god, it's so cute. But because I was being a brute and I was kind of like attacking random people when I came in the game, the cat kind of like had run away. but later I found the cat and I got to hold the cat, so that was good. There's no area, there's a desert, there's forest, there is like so many things. And especially when you're like you have like those islands on the top of the world. It's called, I think, the Abyss. That dimension is kind of like you have a lot of puzzles in that, and while you're on top you can see the whole world, and it's huge. And I can't imagine how much you can do. There's like bounty boards where you can find bounties of people needing help and bandits and a bunch of random things. Or you can literally just walk around the world, and if you hear like people talking about, oh, there is a problem in this place, you can just go to that place and try to investigate it. So there's a bunch of like seeded things for you to find. So to me, that's really cool. And I hope to dive in the game and find more cool stuff. Like there was a kid who was very sad because the bandits had stolen his sheep, and I found the sheep, and I actually kind of like died 3 times trying to rescue the sheep. I rescued Wooly. I could literally hold him, and then I didn't walk with Wooly, but I could actually go on my horse while I held the sheep. So it was kind of like a stare of animals and people, and it was kind of funny. And then when I got Wooly back, it apparently wasn't Wooly, but the kid was happy anyways, and there was a lot. And that was, to me, the highlights of the game, how you can interact with the world. So should you buy this game? Well, ultimately, I don't know. I am not benefited in any way whatsoever if you buy the game or not. The best I can tell you is, if you are a person that's playing a game and you're expecting an RPG with like tough choices and very immersive storytelling, and you want to maybe get overly attached to your companions, maybe this is not the game for you. But if you're a person who really likes engaging with world systems, building stuff, and maybe if you're into Breath of the Wild, this game could be for you. Maybe if you're into MMOs, but you don't really care for the social part of MMOs, but more like going around the world and seeing stuff, this is probably a game for you. I'm honestly curious how people will react to this, because there's a lot of expectations for this game, and the game does have a lot to it, but at the same time, the game, it's its own thing. It's just trying to stand on its own legs. So I really am curious to see what will be people's reactions to it. Some people, I assume, are going to be disappointed. Some people will be thrilled. It all depends on what kind of game you're expecting to get from this game. I hope that this video has helped you settle down to figure out if this game is for you or not. To me, that's my ultimate goal, that if you do find that the things I told you and talked about made the game feel interesting to you, to me, that's the goal. And I hope I could help you somewhat into figuring it out. Thank you so much for watching. Please like the video, subscribe, and I hope to see you around. Stop by my stream. Yeah, I'm always doing like crazy stuff, like rolling around on the floor.